audio test here because the last stream they didn't have sound for both people, so if I could just get people in the chat to say if they can hear me, and Justin's going to speak in a second to see if we can hear him too.
Hello, this is Justin. Can you hear me?
All right, and we are live. Hello and welcome to Developer Insights. I am David.
And I'm Justin.
Together we are the leads on game development and design here at Codename.
Well, not only that, but we founded the company, so we've got that going for us too. We will be your hosts for this episode and every episode.
Unless we're not.
That is technically correct. Today's actually our first episode.
And hopefully it's not our last episode.
Well, why would it be our last?
Well, we could get canceled.
Why would we get canceled?
I don't know. Maybe we're revealing company secrets. Or it could have been something I tweeted 20 years ago. I don't know. I hear that's a thing that keeps happening.
You don't even use Twitter. I don't even think Twitter existed 20 years ago.
Well, that's right. That's probably for the best.
Anyway, we are here to not do comedy, but actually answer development and design questions, specifically on Idle Champions. Also, if you have questions about any of our other games, you can probably ask those, and we can probably answer them too.
Yeah, but if you don't ask any questions, you do risk suffering through Justin's one-man reenactment of Star Wars: A New Hope. So,
suffering's the wrong word. I think it's really good. While we're waiting for the first few questions to come in, we have a couple of updates, I guess. We can talk to you about the game. So I think things are making progress here. We've fixed a couple of issues with human and usurp-like abilities, like observe and usurp and bulk up recently. So that should be out now. And aside from that, everyone I think is heads down working on bug fixes, new champions, new features, etc.
Well, great. So that ate about 15 seconds.
Are there any questions now? No. Let's talk about Starship SN15.
Well,
that's fun.
It didn't blow up. It was really disappointing.
It's actually not supposed to blow up, Dave.
But it did for the first, well, it says 4, but I feel like it was every launch I saw, it blew up.
There were 4 launches, and yes, it did kind of blow up on all of those. We're also supposed to talk about a giveaway that we're doing during the stream. We're doing a giveaway for a WizKids Red Slad Paint Kit in support of tomorrow's Red Slad Paint Night event, which is going to be happening over on the WizKids official Twitch channel tomorrow, May 7th at 3 p.m. So tune into that and keep your eye out in chat for that giveaway when you can win a paint kit. And that's the end of the script that I have here. So let's hope there are questions now.
It looks like we actually are starting to get questions. 1, 2, we got 4 questions already. This is going to be a gong show.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you want to start with question
3 here?
Sure.
Yeah. Do you want to ask me that,
Yeah,
or do you want me to?
well, I
Okay,
haven't read it yet. I'm gonna, you know what? I'm going to read it, and you can answer
okay,
it. We'll see how this goes.
we'll give it a try.
Some from a player named Honeybunny22, they write, as a new player, I am really discouraged by how long it takes to get more characters. Are there plans to give new players to anyone other than Dritz? Give new players anyone other than Dritz?
Yes. So this is a great question. There are, our content cadence is pretty quick in Idle Champions. Every 3 weeks, there'll be an event where you can receive or earn 3 champions for free. There's also a time gate that happens every 3 weeks as well, generally, where you can recruit a champion via time gates. You can also earn time gate pieces where you can get new champions that way by opening time gates outside of that regular cadence. And then there's actually 3 other champions I believe you can get just by playing the campaign. There's Olcoria, Dragonbait, and Rhea that are available outside of the outside of events and stuff. And then if you just keep an eye on our socials and these streams, we're doing giveaways all the time. For example, this last week, you've been able to get Kroll and a skin for Kroll. Or I guess not Kroll himself, just a skin for Kroll for the last week. So there's lots of opportunities. Zaka is also evergreen. Thank you, Jay. And you can actually get Hitch by signing up for the newsletter in the bottom part of your game. Maybe it's in the main menu. You can sign up for our weekly email and you can get Hitch that way. And then we also send out chests and stuff every week as well. So that is quite a few champions that you can get every week, every couple of weeks. So just keep at it and your roster will be filled out in no time.
Yeah, no doubt. Justin, you want to go with question 1?
Sure. BL Wright 3 asks, why is the game on Armor Games so buggy? And what is the most smooth format to play on?
So in general, there's a few differences between the game clients, and the one on Armor Games, including the one on Kong and the one on CNE Games, are our WebGL version of the game. Now, the WebGL version of the game, the performance on that is going to vary depending on sort of what hardware you have and what browser you're playing in, and it can be a little bit temperamental compared to some of the more like the PC platform one, which is going to have a little bit less. There's potential for less issues with one that's running just straight up on the PC. So that could be Steam, that could be Epic. That's going to be your most smooth format. But as far as other options go for that, if you've got an Xbox or a PS4, those are excellent as well. But if you're playing on PC because you're playing Armor Games, because that would be web, one option would be to look at the Steam client.
Cool. I'm highlighting some questions here that you could ask me, Dave.
Sure. All right. Question 6. This is from Jashib. I'm not going to try that. Anyway, the question is, given the scope of the game and the breadth of the systems and subsystems, how do you approach, / did you approach, tutorialization? Specifically, how do you approach addressing tutorialization for both veterans and newbies?
This is a great question. Tutorials are super duper hard. I guess when we first started approaching it way back in the day, when Idle Champions was coming out, we were kind of just looking at what's the bare minimum we can tell you in order to get you through the first couple of areas. And then we put that in front of players, and half of them couldn't figure out how to get through the bare minimum areas. And so we had to go back and do it again and sort of, okay, take the I guess the short way of saying is we took kind of an iterative approach to it with a lot of play testing. The bad part about that is that takes a lot of time, and so it's something that is very challenging to do when you're putting out content and new features as quickly as we are. And so what's happened is that the very beginning of the game has a lot of tutorials in it, and then a lot of the sort of more advanced features that we've done over the years, like mode run automation, even familiars to a certain extent, don't have as much tutorialization around them. And so we really lean on our community quite a bit to sort of let people know what's going on with those features and sort of how to approach them in the best way. So it is something we would like to fix in the future, and kind of, I think we are we are trying to look at the initial tutorial and try and modernize it a little bit for how big the game has gotten over the years. But it's a really tough thing to do, tutorializing things and doing tutorials. So yeah, I don't know if you have any sort of thoughts on that, Dave, because we both kind of work on the tutorials.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I would mention on the tutorial, and you sort of alluded to it a little bit, is we did actually start working on a new design for a redesign of the initial game tutorial, just because it's one of those things that as we're sort of heads down, pouring ahead, or pushing into new content, that we stop. You don't even think about the original stuff, and then it comes back, and you're like, oh, we're launching on a new platform, and this is the new player. Oh wow, this is the player experience for new players. And one of the things for the current tutorial is that it was largely adapted from the tutorial that we had done in Crusaders. So it really hadn't gotten the love that it deserved. So that is something that we started a design for, and it's on the plate to look into more deeply. But that doesn't really address later game features. So yeah, that's a tricky one.
It's very tough, yeah. I've got an easier question for you here. Magic Reese wants to know, why is David co-founder, developer, designer, while Justin is co-founder, designer, developer?
Yeah, it's definitely an easier question. One of the things, so here at Codename, Justin and I both wear many, many, many hats. And one of those hats is development, another is design. And then, of course, over the years, we've worn support and server management and anything technical and internal, as well as a dozen other things that are not coming to the top of my head at this very second. But when it comes to what we end up taking the lead on, I end up doing the development lead, and Justin ends up doing the design lead. So while we are both co-founders, we both do development and we both do design. Justin leads the design and I lead the development.
For better or for worse. I'm good with any of the questions that we've got here.
All right.
If you want to.
Sure. Something interesting here. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Let's go with Optimus here. Optimus SE writes, are there any plans for missions or variants where you can use all 12 slots at once?
So yeah, probably not where you can use all 12 slots at once. I think the thing that's really interesting about the game is how you have to kind of optimize your formation and make choices. And so I think what we like to do is actually restrict your formation choices a little bit more, so you can make different choices on different variants. And opening it up to sort of all 12 bench slots is kind of the reverse of that philosophy. So what we like to do is, limit you to using, champions from certain bench slots, or champions with a certain stat score, or champions of a certain race or class or alignment. And we find that to be much more interesting than kind of opening it up to, you can kind of use whatever you want. With that said, I have had some evil thoughts at times of sort of one of my big balance updates being to just switch around which slots champions are in. But every time I suggest that at a team meeting, everyone goes and looks at me like I'm crazy. So probably not going to do that, but definitely something that some stuff that we look at. Where champions are on the bench is actually something that we look at quite a bit when we're deciding where to put a champion. So, which isn't really relevant to this question, but I thought it was interesting, so I thought I'd say it. I got a question here from Henry Lonewind. It says, why do the animated logos at game start not run smooth? We would have guessed that this would be a high priority for you, as it's the first things players see, and it's our logo.
That is a fair point. The simple answer is actually the logos are playing over some of the loading that's happening, and when the game does some parsing of some of the large definition pieces, there's a small pause and the thread locks up. I hadn't actually thought about no one's to my knowledge, no one's actually mentioned that it was something that we'd want to be perfectly smooth. But we could probably fix that Um, yeah. All right. What else do we have? This one should be an easy one, Justin. Severand0166 asks, can you explain the yellow bars in the level bar?
Yes, I think so. If those are what I'm thinking they are, then those the yellow bar is just your progress towards the next upgrade. So you get upgrades every 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 levels. And if you are leveling your champion up one level at a time or 5 levels at a time or whatever, that will be the sort of progress towards the next level where you get an upgrade. One thing you can do is you can, like, there's a little button in the kind of far left side above the bench where you can change how many levels you buy at once. And if you set that to upgrade, then it will just buy as many levels as you need to get to the next upgrade. So you'll actually never see that yellow bar, which is kind of my default way of playing. But I know other people have that set to different things. You can also hold down the upgrade button, or the hold down the mouse on the upgrade or buy levels button to just buy them one after the other without having to click, which is one of those tutorial tips that we don't actually tutorial anywhere, but you can find out from people.
All right, let's have another one for you, Justin.
Oh,
we've got Petro Gaddis. I'm just absolutely destroying these. My question is, how and when you thought about making this game, and how did you amass the energy and passion to make it a realization?
So we had another game before this called Crusaders of the Lost Idols, which is still going strong, and you can still find on Steam and on our website, games.codenameentertainment.com. And that was a similar idle game, a similar kind of idea with the formation stuff. If you think there are too many champions in Idle Champions, that one's got like 180 champions or Crusaders at this point. So we made that, and then we were like, how could we pump this up? How could we make it better? And a lot of us in the studio were big fans of Dungeons and Dragons, and we approached Wizards about it, and we were like, hey, we think this would be a really good fit for D&D. There's really interesting things we could do, and they eventually said, yeah, okay, let's give that a try. And so we did, and we got very excited about it, and we popped up a million D&D games in the office back when we were allowed to be in the office and play D&D together, and just got really, really into D&D and really, really into the world and the characters, and that really gave us a lot of inspiration for making the game. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. As one of the things that really drives us forward is when the community gets really excited about things and when the community is really positive about things. And so I think one of the things that really helped with this game is that when we first released it, like 3.5 years ago, people were really, really into it and really, really psyched about it. And that really kind of created this feedback loop where we got really excited about it as well. So I think that's one of the things that gives us passion, is when the community is really excited about the game.
For sure.
Let's see here. Here's a question for Dave from Kanzja. Yeah, these are hard. What data types are you using to store everything? I literally see damage in the E80s, and no way that's integers, and floating point doesn't have enough precision.
So yeah, that's true-ish. The floating, like for so double values actually go to E308. I want to say, Justin. That's right.
Yep.
I always want to say E306, and I'm not sure why. It's sort of like saying Crusaders and Champions, like getting them swapped every time I want to say them. But the answer on that one is that a lot of stuff is integer. That's anything that's sort of the smaller whole numbers, and then we do have a number of things that are double. Although I think at this point we've replaced all of them with our own custom quad number format. So that gives us 128 bits of precision, which should give us more precision than there are stars in the universe, is what I want to say. But
far more, I think, more than atoms there are in the universe.
Is that the one? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that should let us go substantially higher than E308.
So to be fair, actually, I think E308 gives us more atoms than there are in the universe.
Well, I'm going to have that one prepared for the next time someone asks that question. But this actually wasn't always the case, and it was only about, I don't know, we just got the quad stuff finished on WebGL recently, within the last few months. But the original, it was double, and that left us sort of stuck in a balance state where Justin couldn't push the levels up past about 1,000. So when we got that out about a couple of months ago, that's let us raise the level caps, and that's positive. All right. I'll see. This is one heck of a question, Doc, that we've got growing here.
It is growing very quickly. There's no way we are going to get through all of these.
Speaking of numbers then, the Ultimate Skater asks, I've always been curious about the balance in idle games. How do you guys handle balance when there's so many multiplications and numbers can quickly get large and out of hand? Must be difficult. Thanks.
Yeah, this is a really good question. And as I was highlighting this one, I was like, how am I going to actually talk about this? Because it's a really good question, and it's very core to sort of all idle games and all sort of incremental games like ours where the numbers get really big. And to be honest, the way we try and do it is by providing enough sort of variety in the content, in the goals and whatnot, that there's a little bit of challenge for everybody. So it's very, very hard for us to go like, hey, okay, this is the absolute maximum amount of damage that anyone is ever going to be able to do, because, well, you guys are players and you will inevitably find something we didn't think of and do 100 times that damage, or e to the 100 times that damage. So what we try and do is just make things that we think are really, 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 really hard. And with any luck, those will be really, really, really hard for the majority of our players. And some players will hit them out of the park. And then some players will need to grind for a while to get to them. So it's really about variety. It's really very impossible to actually nail down specifically, like, this is the best you can do and this is sort of average you can do and whatnot, when you have so many different factors in the game. Like, there are so many things in the game that affect your final damage, like patron perks and blessings and your Modron core and the actual champions you have, and then the gear they have, and just there's more things than we can possibly actually account for just in a spreadsheet. Trust me, we've tried. It just doesn't work. So so we just kind of do it a little bit off of what feels like it should be challenging, and then we look and see how players do in it, and hopefully it is challenging. Like, it always makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside when we release like some new variants or a new patron, and there's some patron variants that people actually can't beat, because it means that we have room to add more power, even for those people who are really, really already OP. And because we keep on adding power over time, with soft cap increases and new systems, it means that even if we make something that's really, really hard today, in a couple of months, in a year or whatever, it will potentially not be as hard, and you won't need to be a sort of cutting edge hardcore player in order to do it. So I think that's it. I'm happy with that answer.
All right, we're gonna have to be, well, there's no chance we're getting
more succinct.
So we're gonna have to be slightly faster if we're gonna get through it.
Slightly more concise. Let's see. You answered that one. Here's a question for you, Dave, from Mike Baldy. Question about the clients. It appears the Epic client is 64-bit. Is that intentional? Is the Steam client going to shift to 64-bit too?
So the answer on that one is it certainly can, going forward. One of the reasons that we avoided going to a 64-bit client is that there had been a number of very slow growing memory issues that we'd been working very hard to track down. Those issues, as they grew, of course, would cause the client to get larger and larger and larger, and then eventually crash and close itself. And I personally was fairly nervous that if we opened it up to a 64-bit size, that we could end up with a client that sort of took down your whole system, which not something that we want to be known for in any way, shape, or form. Now, the Epic, for Epic, they actually required the client be 64. So one of the things that we put in there as as a failsafe is when the client gets over a certain amount of memory, it actually just will close itself to prevent it from getting from any kind of a leak getting too large and taking down the whole system. Now that said, we do a pass on the memory every couple of months and make sure we're getting rid of any kind of buildups there. But because we have such a frequent release of characters, a new character every 3 weeks, means that the potential that something slips through is pretty high. So we're watching that very carefully. So that's why we hadn't given out the 64-bit client, but Steam certainly could be switched to that. I'll run that by Peter and see if he's game to knock that one or to shift that one up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Holy smokes! Yeah, we are definitely.
I've highlighted three quick ones a little bit further down the list.
Okay.
If we want to just sort of blast through those.
Yeah, we are definitely not going to get to everyone's questions, unfortunately. So if we don't get to yours, maybe next time. Okay, we'll go through those 3 quick ones then. We've got Tizzy Tizzy Sar, or I don't know how these are supposed to be pronounced. We are currently seeing a bit of crossover among, quite a bit of crossover among Hasbro properties. What with a D&D inspired Magic the Gathering set coming out soon? Any chance Idle Champions might get an MTG inspired Heroes or Adventures?
Yeah, and the quick answer is, yeah, that'd be really cool. I don't think we have any answer for you on that right now, aside from we'd be on board with that. That seems like a really cool idea.
All right, next quick question. SMLP asks, are you planning to translate the game into other languages as well, like German, for example?
Yeah. Yeah, that's something we do really want to do. Absolutely.
All right. And next one, Pat Paradise says, seems like leveling up the clicker is useless. It contributes to the first few levels, but after that it seems completely useless, even if you keep it on par, cost-wise, with the champion. Am I wrong?
So initially, as a sort of newer player, that is definitely the case. But I know that later on, as you get a whole bunch of favor, it can actually flip around the other way, and clicking can be very, very useful later on. So the answer to that question is yes and no. It is kind of useless-ish early, but later on it can be very useful, especially on very challenging variants where your champion pool is limited. Bam, there we go. 3 quick ones. Let's see. Here's another question. Oh, you want to answer 27 here, Dave?
What did I flag? Yeah, I thought we should touch on that one just because I'm sure it's a question on a lot of people's minds right now.
Yeah. Hanswan would like to know if he's able to take, or they are able to take their progress from Epic to Steam, or vice versa, or any other platforms. Basically, if we are allowing cross-platform play, and if so, how?
Right. And the reason I wanted to address this one here is because I'm sure a lot of people are looking at that right now thinking, hey, I started on Epic and I want to move myself to somewhere else, or vice versa, because of various different offers at the moment, or the ones that we just ran, which were very popular. The answer on that one is, in general, no. We don't have linked accounts, and we don't support cross-platform play. This is largely because we can't support cross-platform play across all of the platforms. Many of the platforms have specific restrictions on that. And it is something that we had previously done with Crusaders, and that had been it had a lot of difficulties associated with it. So we don't allow for linked accounts or cross-platform play. We do, in rare cases, allow you to transfer if something has broken, or you've lost a device, or something of that nature, and you can bring that up with support. But if you're bringing it up with just like, I want to transfer because the answer is going to be no. All right. Here's a real quick one for you, Justin. How many champions does this game have? Asked by Less Than.
I believe we're at 80.
Don't get it wrong.
What? See, there's a difference between the number of champions the game actually has and the number of champions I've actually designed and have looked at. I know that we're up to 83 in our design. I think we're at 80 released. So it might be 81 because Shaka just came out.
You just quick open the data hero table.
We're a couple ahead. We're a couple ahead there. Is it 80? People
I
in chat are
see-
saying it's 80, so
I see
I must be,
82 that have names.
well, that's good.
Yeah.
It's apparently 80.
Okay.
I knew it was around 80.
Yeah.
83 is a really fun champion. Just finished balancing them
Yeah.
the
I'm really
other
looking
day.
forward to this champion called Y4E14.
Shh, spoilers.
All right.
Let's see here. A question here from Dr. Board Game for you, Dave.
Dr.
Are there any plans to make a similar game with different tabletop IPs like Warhammer, Star Wars, etc.?
Oh, and I flagged that one as purple because I wanted to see if we were willing to answer that one or not.
Oh, well, we didn't talk about purple.
Oh, no. I mean, I think even saying that answered the question. Definitely something we've considered. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Here's another question for you, Dave, since I've been taking up the majority of the speaking.
Stock is hard to find stuff in, man.
From Mad Hater. It's either Is it Hatter? No, I don't know. From Mad Hatter.
It's not. That's not a good name. Sorry.
Do you play a lot of D&D in the office still or remotely?
So the answer to that one, unfortunately, is that no. The amount of games, to my knowledge, have gone down quite a bit. Although there are a few out-of-office games that are still running. I know Eric plays a ton with his family.
Oh yes, our CEO plays a lot
and
of D&D.
I know our artist and Adam has a game that he plays with a handful of people outside of work, including some of the other artists. I think I'm not 100% sure who's in on that particular game. I know it was one that was extended from when everyone was still in the office, but unfortunately, a number of games, including the one that myself and Sean and Dexter were playing, has been permanently on hiatus until we're allowed to come back. So
hopefully soon.
Fingers crossed. All right, what do we got here? You got to highlight these with ones you really want to answer, Justin.
I really want to answer all of them, Dave.
All right, let's go with Mike Baldy asking, can you guys talk about some of the stuff you tested from the developer blog with the potential co-op system or the potential new progression legendary system?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the co-op system that we teased back in I think that was in the start of the year blog, and the legendary system as well. Those are both coming along. We are actively working on those at this point, and we're very excited about what they're going to be, and we're very excited to talk about them more once they get a little bit closer, and we're sure of the direction they're going to take. This is something that you'll often see that developers do, like us, where we kind of talk about something ahead of time, and then we kind of go quiet about it for a very long time. And really, that's just because things change a lot in development. So we may have an idea of what it's going to look like now, but that may not necessarily be what it's going to be in the end. And so we don't want to promise anything. We don't want to talk in depth about anything that may very well change. So once that gets a little bit closer to done, we will be very excited to talk about it, but not quite yet. But yes, there will be some new systems coming out this year, a new sort of somewhat co-op play, and a sort of legendary progression system that are going to be very exciting, give you all sorts of stuff to do, and give you all sorts of power.
Man, I'd actually completely forgotten that we'd teased that.
We did, yeah, all the way back at the beginning of the year.
Feels like forever. All right. I'm going to grab another one of these from this section here.
Sure.
Almedia Alvaro asks, is there any possibility of adding more slots as a needed game feature for the close future, some kind of search mechanic for Crusader?
So it's two different questions.
Yes, I see that now. I was like, that doesn't follow. Yes.
So more bench slots is the first part of that. So right now, as many of you know, there are only 12 bench slots. So we managed to stuff all 80 champions into those 12 slots. It's getting a little bit crowded down there on the bench with a couple of slots having like 6 champions in them, potentially even 7 with some evergreens. So there's always the possibility of adding more slots. We just have to decide how and when we want to do that. When I was talking earlier about kind of rebalancing the champions across the slots, that's one sort of option. Because one of the things that kind of sucks about just adding slots one by one is that you've got 12 slots that have 6 champions in them, and then you've got 1 slot that has 1 champion in them until you put more in them. And in order to kind of fill them out, you have to put more champions into them really quickly, which means each champion you put in them doesn't really have a chance to kind of breathe on its own, because it's getting replaced by the next champion, the next event or a couple of events later. So that's one of the things we kind of have to figure out before we add more bench slots, but it is something we are actively thinking about. And the second question was about some sort of search mechanic for finding the champions. And yeah, that's it relates to a couple of other questions that we've had here, and just making it easier to see what champions are available and what they do and what their stats are and where they're useful. And that's absolutely something that we would like to do in the future, make that a lot easier to tell what other champions do, especially if you don't have them yet and you want to decide whether you're going to go for that champion in an event or not. So yes, something like that in the future. I'm just not sure exactly when.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Here's a question for Dave. Oh, there's a bunch of questions highlighted here for Dave. Great.
Justin, I just lost your video. Are you still
lost my
there?
video?
Can we? Yeah. I've got a no signal. Oh,
this fan isn't on.
you need to turn the fan on for the camera.
How do I turn that on? One moment, please. Please stand by.
So for those listening now to Justin, we have a very nice DSLR camera in the streaming room that unfortunately has a tendency of overheating, and we've got a nice computer fan rigged up on it, and if you don't turn the fan on it in about half an hour, it overheats, and then we lose signal like we just lost Justin. So
Am I back?
you are back, and hopefully you've turned the fan on.
I've turned the fan on. It's actually blowing around the camera on me. It feels amazing.
Perfect. It's going to need to be on the camera though.
Like this is a pretty big streaming, like a pretty complex streaming setup. I had to turn on 3 different lights, the camera, the computer. I mean, I know it says developer under there, but I'm very illiterate when it comes to technology. So
yeah, it was challenging to set up too, Justin.
Here's a question for you, Dave, from Achimon. I always want to say a number after someone's. If they don't have numbers after their name, I'm like,
what year were they born?
Yeah, it's like, how did you get this nickname without numbers after it? Achimon asks, I accidentally continued in early game. Now I am stuck for 6 hours straight in level 100. I don't get a boss. If I quit and save, is my progress lost, or do I still get my rewards?
So, I mean, it certainly sounds like that there's some sort of a bug going on there where you're not getting the boss. So that's definitely something that I would open. I'd click the support button in the bottom right and open a ticket about that and see if someone can take a look. But that said, if you quit and save, you will at the very least get the rewards for the adventure that you're on, or at the very least favor if you haven't completed the objectives, and then you can start again. Hopefully just getting from there to level 100 shouldn't take too much, but like I say, if you open a ticket, someone can definitely take a look at that, and potentially you'll be able to progress from there without having to reset. But resetting, because it's a big core part of the game, it shouldn't be a big setback. But obviously we don't want you to end up in a situation where you're forced to do that just because of some kind of a glitch. All right. Let's see.
I'm just trying to highlight questions as quickly as I can. I marked a couple as easy there.
All right. Let's see. What do we got? Easy.
Now the people who've asked these questions know that their questions are easy.
Well, hopefully they don't take offense. Like Hanthras asks, actually, they're just going to take offense at the way we pronounce their names.
Yes, so don't worry about it.
The question was easy. What is the highest possible chest you can drop from a boss bag?
That's a great question, and a really quick one too. Gold chests can drop from boss bags. So you'll sometimes get a silver chest, and very, very rarely you'll get a gold chest, and you will always get gems. Right. And then sometimes you can get other things too, depending on the champions you have in your formation. But gold chest is the highest one you can get from a boss bag. All the other ones you have to get in the store for event currency or whatever else.
For sure. Maybe these should be flagged as quick questions instead of ease.
Oh, that's a good idea.
There we go.
Quick.
All right. Mesa Duvali asks, can you convert rep gained from events equally to the campaigns you want? Or do you need to dump all accumulated XP in one campaign of choice?
Yeah, so for players who don't know, you earn favor during an event, and at the end of that event, once it ends, you can convert that favor into favor for one of the permanent campaigns. And it is actually just one of the permanent campaigns. So you take all of the favor you earned in that, and you convert that at a certain ratio into a buff for your for one of your campaigns. You can't split that between multiple ones. Bam. Let's find a question here for Mr. Dave. Choco Dave asks, I feel like we've done a Choco Dave question before. Is there anything you've wanted to implement in Idle Champions and been unable to, technically or otherwise?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a great question. I know, see, here's the thing. I know there's some things from a technical standpoint that we wanted to do and we didn't get them done. And they're not coming to mind. But on the otherwise side, there is a feature, and that would be the formation tester feature. We wanted to actually put together a feature where you could set up your own formation or a custom formation, and then set all of the upgrades on each champion, have access to champions that you don't actually even own yet, and try and make the ultimate formation. And now that I know we had it on the docket for a long time, and I don't know exactly what happened to it. I think it fell between the cracks, but that I think would have been a really excellent feature, and I know players would have really enjoyed that one. So maybe in the future we can put that back on the list. But it's definitely a big feature, which is part of the reason why it didn't get implemented.
Yeah, I believe that one was on the docket right around the time we were doing Modron automation and the Modron stuff there. And the reason it got dropped is because that stuff took a lot of time.
Yes, that ballooned. Yeah, for sure.
Let's do another one for you here. Oh, here's a quick one for you. Pretty Claire asks, can you add a main menu to access without going through a campaign or variant? So I guess accessing the main menu while you're on the
main map.
The main map?
The campaign map without having a campaign access.
Yeah.
I think the general answer to that is with a little bit of work, it could be done. I don't know that it's been prioritized. I know it's come up from time to time. The game is kind of it is operating in a different mode when it's just at the campaign map, when you don't actually have an active campaign. And what that means is sort of big portions of your user account aren't active. They're not in memory, and this does mean that when you go to bring up something like the menu, certain things don't work. But there's no reason that can't be adjusted other than it would have to be prioritized. So it's certainly something that we can put on the list for, if we have a little extra cycles to look at. Generally speaking, being able to go into a campaign and then go to the menu is usually okay. I can see cases where you maybe wanted to quickly mute the game or something like that. Would be something where you'd want to bring the menu up otherwise. But most of the features in the main menu actually only relate to in-game stuff, or the majority of them do anyway. All right. Let's go with OG17. It says, Shaka's labels only show occupied slots instead of always showing, so you could make formations just filling empty slots with desired characters. Saw a closed bug report marked as intended. Is this a technical thing?
That is a good question. I don't actually know if it's a technical thing or not as to why they're not showing up there. I would think that they should show up. So if we get Jay to just flag that one for me, I can check in with Peter and Jarrett after this call and see what's going on there, because I think definitely my intention was to have Shaka's labels show up on any slots that they're being affected. I think I switched colors on you here. Started marking things with your color. There we go. Here's a question here for you, Dave, from Great Czar. Are there any plans on performance overhauls? The game could get quite laggy with 100 enemies on the screen, specifically during breath attacks. That is true.
Yeah, for sure. So this question actually requires a little bit further information from the player asking it, and that is that performance has actually been something that we've been working on continually, and we did do some very significant performance overhauls, specifically around the time that we went out on Nintendo Switch. And that's mainly because Nintendo Switch had sort of Nintendo Switch was a fun one because it had the opposite problem that we've often seen on mobile devices. And that is that mobile devices tended to be stingy around memory, but actually have pretty decent CPUs and GPUs. Whereas the Nintendo Switch had lots of memory, but really underpowered from a CPU standpoint. And so we did actually spend a significant amount of time making the game run more performant on that. And I ended up doing a complete rewrite of the animated character system to do just that. So in general, we find that the PC performance is actually quite good. So if you're having issues with 100 enemies on screen, I guess the question is, what platform are you running on? The Switch one, absolutely, if that's what you're on, that's going to be a struggle. And some of the web ones, for sure. If you're running in the OpenGL one, getting 100 enemies on screen, that can be tough too. But yeah, so we need to know what platform for that. But in general, the PC one should be quite good. And then the Switch one is sort of on the margins, unfortunately. All right. Let's answer this. Unky Munkus asks, I know that Omen Dran is a character in the third slot, but have you all thought of making him a patron too? He is a masked Lord of Waterdeep. Same look, but black hood. How backslash promotes Acquisitions Inc. Oh, Justin, got to move your cursor. I can't read that. And C-Team and Waffle Crew Adventures. It's such an Omen thing. Oh, I see. And then he backs and promotes the Acquisition Inc., C-Team, and Waffle Crew Adventures. It's such an Omen thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. I think when we were initially talking to Jerry about this, I think we gave him the choice and be like, you can be a character in the game or you can be a patron. And I think he chose character. And then I think he came back later and was like, and patron too. And we're like, but for now, he's just going to be a character. We've got a very long list of really cool ideas for more patrons in the future, and patrons are also something that add quite a bit of content, but also quite a bit of time to sort of get through all that content. So we're not adding them super duper quickly. So maybe sometime in the future we could get around and sort of go all the way around and come back to Omen, but probably not anytime soon.
Right.
Let's see.
All right. I think I'm still looking through here. So why don't we go ahead and answer this question from Billiam Smith 84. Can you think about reprogramming your lose a slot campaigns for patrons? You have high-level campaigns that leave you with no players, requiring winning on click damage alone.
Yes, that is definitely probably the case with a couple of them. We will have to look at those on kind of a case-by-case basis. I can probably go and find the ones that are affected by that. But if you want to open a ticket and just say, hey, Justin asked me to tell you exactly which ones are doing that right now, then Sean can pass that on to me when he gets that ticket, and then we can take a look at those. I knew that we would run into this situation eventually, but I wasn't sure if we had actually hit it yet or not. And so that is definitely something to look at. And just for anyone who's not sure what's going on here, there are some adventures, the base adventure, where you will like a slot will get filled with an escort every 100 areas or so, and that's fine for the base adventure or the base variant because you only have to get to area 200 or whatever. But you get a patron on there, like say Zerial, who all of their variant requirements are like 250 or 300 levels higher than that, and you run into situations where the formation just gets entirely filled, and then you can't actually place any champions in there, and it becomes very challenging to actually make any progress, which loops back around to that click damage question that we got all the way at the beginning, because when you get to that point in the game, click damage can actually often get you through those. It's just very annoying, because you have to like use fire breath potions and go back to area 1 and get your butt up, and then go back to the higher area, go through a couple of areas, then go all the way back at your butt. It's very annoying. Certainly not intentional. Certainly not an intentional way to beat that stuff. So yes, absolutely. Here's some questions. Another one from Choco Dave here for you, Dave. The Daves are asking the Daves. Will there be support for mods in the future? I'm not even sure what mods I'd want.
I don't remember highlighting that question, but in that case,
it's highlighted.
It's highlighted now. I think the answer on that one is no. We haven't. That's actually something we've never discussed. I'm not even 100% sure. What kind of features players would be able to access through that. I mean, I'm open to hearing good ideas. Like if someone's got a good idea for a mod, but then if it's a really good idea, I mean, we'd implement that right in. No, I'd have to hear ideas behind that for what would make it viable, like what features people would want for that. So.
Here's another one for you that I think you did highlight, because I think I saw you highlighting it. Hagudaz asks, is Epic ever going to get a native Mac client?
So currently we actually don't have any plans for a native Mac client. Sorry. Short, sweet.
Here's another one for you. I'll just go through a bunch here since you've highlighted some, and I've only got one more highlighted down there. Death E Bear asks, would it be possible to keep chat persistent from campaign to menu to campaign? So essentially a chat window on the campaign map, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I wonder if that's actually the interpretation of the question. Because I actually read that to mean that the chat disconnects and you lose the message history.
That may very well as well.
So I guess there's two versions of that question. If the first version is that if the chat could remain while you're at the campaign map, it is possible, but it's probably not something that we would prioritize. Outside of that, the possibility that that it's losing the message history and you're not being able to come back and you'd miss messages, that we could definitely look into. Yeah, for sure.
Here's another question that is highlighted in blue. Did you miss that one? Question 90 here from Anglispark asks, how hard would it be to have the F hotkey assign familiars at random instead of in the same order every time, so that we can all experience all of our awesome familiars instead of just the first 15?
Yeah, so I mean, the how hard part is that would be trivial. The second part of the question, of course, is that something that we would do? I don't see any reason why we couldn't do that. Certainly, I mean, do you see a reason why players would want it to be in the same order, Justin?
I do think it's one of those things where that's the behavior right now is it's in the same order. And so anytime you go and change the existing behavior, there will definitely be people who have gotten used to the existing behavior and like it. So I think if we were going to do something like this, I would probably suggest doing it on like an option or a toggle or something, so you can be like either do it randomly or do it in the same order every time. Because I definitely know there are people who do it in a certain order, so that like Minx can be on, or not Minx, Boo can be on something specific, or their mage hand can, like, I always try and put my mage hand on the clicking, just because that it makes sense to me. But yeah, I could definitely see people liking to be able to toggle that.
Yeah, I mean, I know the familiar order was certainly important to players, especially around the Modron automation usage. Sort of what order to make sure we get the same familiars that have been assigned, because they certainly had picked familiars to make their center or their on-field ones be the ones that they really liked. But yeah, that's certainly something we could toggle in a setting. I'd have to see if there was significant demand for it, though. It's one of those things that as the settings actually starting to turn into really valuable real estate, that settings panel is getting larger and larger.
We might have to actually switch it out into multiple settings windows. Dun, dun, dun.
Dear Lord. All right. Let's see. Next question down for you, Justin, is from Zahurtle. Yeah, we'll go with that.
I think it's Zertle.
Zertle. Zertle.
Yeah.
But is it? Are they a turtle?
It's like a turtle.
Yeah,
Zertle
the turtle.
Yeah.
Anyway, they've asked, just discovered the game and having a blast with it. Is there any way to get year one heroes? Would love to have Caddybree adventuring with Dritz.
Yeah, so absolutely. The easiest way to get them is to save up some time gate pieces and open a time gate. I'm not sure precisely when time gates unlock, but if you just keep playing, they should unlock pretty quickly. And you'll be able to find that a button for it in the top left corner if you're playing on Epic, as well as on the campaign map. And you can recruit any of the champions from the game that you've missed. And you can also, for ones you have recruited already, you can also go and get a couple more gold chests from that. And you just need to use your time gate pieces, which drop periodically from bosses.
Right. I should point out we are getting close to our cutoff point, so
it's getting close.
Should do a couple more questions, and we've probably from this list managed to answer maybe 40%, maybe.
Oh, if that.
So sorry if we missed you.
But we will be back. So here, I'll give you one more, and then you can give me one more, and then we'll wrap up.
Sounds good to me.
So we got a question here from Selvos asking, how big is your dev team, and are you looking to expand it right now?
Oh, this is when I always end up having to count on my fingers. We have a moderately sized dev team, but we're not huge. I think we're looking at I think we're about 9 developers. Not all working on Idle Champions, but in general.
Yeah, on Idle Champions, it's only 4. I want to say 4.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 4.5 if you count me. Then 5. But I don't.
Yeah. So the current Idle Champions development team is led by Peter. And then we've got Jacob, who's leading the WebGL stuff. That's all on his plate. We've got Jarrett, who's doing new champion design. And we've got Alex, who is working on
stuff
that I can't share with you. And then, of course, Justin is part-time on that. And his time is split among that and other projects. And that gives us 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other developers, I know someone in chat asked about that, and the other developers are working on other games. So we've got Bushwhacker 2 is one of our other games. We've got a developer on that. We've got Crusaders of the Lost Idols. We've got a developer or 2 on that, and then there's some that just kind of spend their days doing fun development stuff that is outside of those 3 games.
Yeah. And the second part of that question was, are you looking to expand it right now? And the answer is, we are not. I don't think we have anything active right this moment, but you can always check.
Not right this moment.
Yeah.
We will have a posting, I believe tomorrow we'll put up a posting, though it is not for specifically a programming sort of dev position.
Yeah, but you can check codenameentertainment.com for that. All right. I think we are out of time for questions, Justin. Unless you had one that was...
why don't we quickly just do 97, because that's a fun one.
All right. Cassius 335 asks, is 80s Dungeon Master on the potential patrons list?
This is a funny question. So there's a D&D cartoon from the 80s that if you ever get a chance to try and find it on YouTube or wherever it is, definitely check it out. It's hilarious. And there's a Dungeon Master character in that game. And I think that'd be really, really funny to bring that person in as a patron. But I think they're a little bit lower down the list, similar to Omen, as would be cool, but possibly probably not immediately. But I know Dupuis keeps on bouncing that around, trying to get me to do something with it. So we'll see.
All right.
Anyway, yeah.
Well, on that teaser, it looks like that is all that we have time for.
Yeah, if we didn't get to your question this week, do not worry. You will have another opportunity as we will be back live again, same time next week.
Assuming that they haven't canceled us.
Yes, assuming that.
And specifically, that time is 2 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time next Thursday.
Before we sign off, though, we would like to thank our tireless mod team, including Jay, who is modding this stream.
And of course, all of you for hanging out, watching the stream, and enjoying the game. Without you, no one here would get to do what we do.
Yeah, we would have to do something else.
Right. Okay, enough of that. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Oh, oops, I forgot to say like, share, and subscribe.
I think that's just a YouTube thing, Dave.
Oh, shoot, the audio is still on.